Guten Tag zusammen. Hi everybody. Today we're learning about the second grammar concept of the unit. The first grammar concept that we learned about was irregular verbs. Now we are moving on to something referred to as present tense used as future tense. So we're not actually expressing the future tense as the future tense. We're using the present tense to talk about something that is happening in the future. So we actually have this in English. In English we have something called the present progressive. So if you say like, I am swimming, that's the present progressive. In German they don't really have this to express the present tense. They just say, ich schwimme, I swim, and that refers to I am swimming, I swim, and I do swim. Anyway, in English, if you say I am swimming, and you throw a time expression at the end like I am swimming tomorrow, you're expressing the future tense by using the present tense. I am swimming tomorrow. Instead of saying I will swim tomorrow, you're saying I am swimming tomorrow, and you're using the present tense to talk about something that's happening in the future. So you can do the same thing in German. So first we're going to go through some time expressions that we can use, understand how we use these time expressions in German, how they differ from English, and then we'll practice writing a few sentences that express the future tense by using the present tense in German. So let's first take a look at some time expressions here. Morgen means morning. So if it's capitalized, it means morning. You'll see later on when it's lowercase, it means tomorrow. You can tell the difference based on the context and the way that they're used in the sentence. Vormittag means mid-morning. Mittag means noon. So we can kind of break these words down a bit. Vormittag, Mittag means noon or midday. Vormittag means before midday, and so it makes a little bit of sense as to why the Germans use those words to express those things. Let's take a look at some of the next ones. We have Nachmittag. We know nach der Schule means after school, so Nachmittag would mean afternoon. Morgen früh. Morgen, see it's lowercase, that means tomorrow. Früh means early. So why do you think they would say tomorrow early? It's so that they won't be redundant and say morgen, morgen, because the German won't say morgen, morgen, to mean tomorrow morning. They would say morgen früh, tomorrow early. So that means tomorrow morning. Heute früh, heute means today, so heute früh means not today morning, but this morning. And that's how a German would say this morning. They don't actually use the word that means this. They say today morning. Let's move over to the other side. We see Abend. That means evening. It can also refer to night. Nacht means night. Heute Morgen means today morning. So that's this morning. So we have two ways of saying this morning. Heute früh and heute Morgen. Morgen we know means tomorrow, and übermorgen means over tomorrow, so the day after tomorrow is übermorgen. Now moving on under Strukturen, it says to talk about this morning, you can say either heute Morgen or heute früh, and we use früh instead of morgen with the adverbs morgen and übermorgen. And this was because of reasons that we already stated, that Germans don't want to say morgen, morgen. It sounds funny, and they don't say that. So they use früh instead of morgen when they use it with morgen and übermorgen. If we wanted to say, this morning I have biology. Before we start with this, let's first figure out how we would say this morning in German. How would we say this morning? Now remember what I said before, we don't actually say this in German. If we're talking about this morning, we're talking about today. So think about how you would say this morning in German. Heute Morgen is how we would say this morning in German. Now, since we're starting with our time expression here in our sentence in German, we know that after the first position in our sentence in German comes the second position, and the second position always has our, what comes in the second position in a German sentence? That's right, the verb comes in the second position in a sentence. And what's always connected to the verb in a German sentence? What's next to our verb? our subject is next to our verb. So if we start with heute Morgen in German, with our time expression in the first position, what would come next in German is heute Morgen have I biology. Okay, because we want to put it in with our verb in the second position and our subject touching our verb. So you would say heute Morgen have I biology. How would we say that in German? We would say heute Morgen habe ich Biologie. All right, how about tomorrow morning? I have chemistry. How would we say tomorrow morning? So we know how to say tomorrow. That's morgen, and we know how to say morning. That's also morgen. So how would we say tomorrow morning I have chemistry in German? And we know that it's not morgen morgen. So tomorrow morning is morgen früh, and now if you want to say I have chemistry in German, you can't actually say it in the same order that we say in English because we know that our verb comes in the second position, followed by our subject. So if we start with morgen früh, our time expression, how would we phrase the rest of the sentence? We would say morgen früh habe ich Chemie. Now, I don't think we addressed before the reason why morgen for morning was capitalized and morgen for tomorrow was lowercase, but the reason for this is that morgen is an adverb and that means tomorrow, and morgen capitalized is a noun, morning. So heute, morgen, and übermorgen are all adverbs, and these adverbs are commonly used to express future ideas in the present tense with German. So let's take a look at some examples of how these are used. If we want to say tomorrow we're going shopping, how would we say that in German? Morgen gehen wir einkaufen. Sometimes students are a little confused when we have two verbs in a sentence in German, which one we put first. And you can basically just look at your English sentence and see which one comes first in your English sentence, and that's the verb that will be conjugated and used first. So if you say tomorrow we're going shopping, going is used first, so that's the verb that we conjugate, and then the other verb just stays in its infinitive form later on in the sentence. So we have here morgen gehen wir einkaufen. Notice that it's not morgen wir gehen einkaufen. Why? Because our verb has to be in the second position. So it's morgen gehen wir einkaufen. And we can't say morgen gehen einkaufen wir because our subject and our verb have to be touching each other. We can change the word order up a bit. If we want, we don't have to start with the time expression in German. Our time expressions do sound more natural at the beginning of the sentence. They can also sound perfectly good in the third position of the sentence. Why the third position? Because time expressions like to be close to the beginning of the sentence, not at the end, as is common in English. And our subject and our verb have to be touching each other. So if you start with your subject and your verb is in the second position, the very next position would be the third position, and that's where your time expression would go. So it could be close to the beginning of the sentence. So if we want to put our time expression in the third position, and we start with our subject, and then our verb, and then our time expression, how would the sentence look with a different word order? Wir gehen morgen einkaufen is how that would look. All right, let's move on and try the next example. This afternoon, I'm going swimming. How would we say this afternoon? Remember, we don't say this. If we're talking about this afternoon, we're talking about today. So how would I say this afternoon, I'm going swimming? We'll start with our time expression for this. And we get heute Nachmittag gehe ich schwimmen. If we wanted to, we could restructure the sentence and start with our subject. If we start with our subject, how would the sentence look? Ich gehe heute Nachmittag schwimmen. All right, let's move on to the next page of our notes. We use with morgen, Vormittag, Mittag, Nachmittag, Abend, Wochenende, and the days of the week to specify when something will occur. When both the day of the week and the time of day are specified, they form a compound noun. So, for example, if we wanted to say Tuesday at noon, you would say Dienstagmittag, or Wednesday evening, you would say Mittwochabend, all one word. So just remember that we use am before days of the week to say like on Monday or on Tuesday. We use it for times of the day, so like am Morgen, am Vormittag, am Mittag, as well as on the weekend, which is am Wochenende. Let's look at the first example. I'm going fishing on Sunday. How would we say this in German? Now remember, your time expression wants to be close to the beginning of the sentence. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound natural to have your time expression at the end of a sentence in German. So we can either put it in our first position or in our third position. Try and figure out the two ways that you would be able to say this statement in German correctly. And remember that the verb that's being conjugated is the one that comes first in our English sentence. So the two ways that we can say are Ich gehe am Sonntag angeln, so that's subject, verb, time expression. Or you could say am Sonntag gehe ich angeln, time expression, verb, subject. All right, let's move on to the other one. I'm going to the doctor on Friday afternoon. So here we have Friday afternoon. This is one of those compound nouns. How would we say Friday afternoon in German? For Friday afternoon, we would say Freitag Nachmittag. But in the sentence here, we have on Friday afternoon, so we have to put a word that comes before it. What word comes before Freitag Nachmittag? That's right, am comes before Freitag Nachmittag. So if we wanted to continue the sentence, starting with our time expression, how would the sentence continue? Am Freitagnachmittag gehe ich zum Arzt. Now, if we look at the next bullet point, we see that am is not the only word that comes before time expressions. We use im with months and seasons. So you would say like in the spring, or in the summer, or in the fall, or in the winter. So in German you would say im Frühling, im Sommer, im Herbst, im Winter. So if you want to say I'm going skiing in February, how would we say this in German? Now remember, our time expressions like to be close to the beginning of the sentence. So how would we say this? There are two ways. We could say, ich gehe im Februar Skifahren, or we could say, im Februar gehe ich Skifahren. So the first one, we have subject, verb, time expression, and the next one we have time expression, verb, subject. And both instances our verb is still in the second position. If we want to say, I'm going hiking this spring, how would we say, I'm going hiking this spring? I'm going hiking this spring is either ich gehe im Frühling wandern or im Frühling gehe ich wandern. The next time expression that we're moving on to includes using the adjective nächste before another increment of time. Like you could say nächsten Sommer, next summer, nächste Woche, next week, nächstes Jahr, next year. Nächst is an adjective in German, and adjectives that come before nouns take adjective endings. We can tell what the adjective ending would be by knowing the gender and knowing what case. With time expressions that don't have a preposition that come before them, so like in or on, they take the accusative form of the adjective ending. And since these words don't have an a or a the that come before them, the adjective ending in these instances looks just like what our der word would be in that instance. So if you look at the first one, we have summer, which is masculine. Masculine accusative normally looks like den for our definite article. So if you look at the ending that we have on nächsten, on nächst, we have that en ending, which is the same here as the ending on our definite article, our der word. So it takes an en. If you move on to Woche, Woche is feminine. And we know that the feminine definite article for the accusative case is die. So the ending on nächst is an e, nächste. If we move on to Jahr, Jahr is neuter. And the neuter definite article for the accusative case is It's das, so the ending on nächst is an es. Nächstes.